On Christmas Eve 2013, while most of the world was wrapping presents, the U.S. Patent Office quietly granted Amazon a patent called anticipatory shipping. The idea was simple and completely insane. Amazon would ship your package before you ordered it. Using algorithms, they would predict what you were about to buy, pre-position the item near your city, and have it already moving toward you before you touched a screen. Let that sit for a moment. A company had been granted a legal patent to predict your desires before you expressed them and turn those predictions into physical packages already in motion. This is not a retail story. This is a logistics story, and I'm going to show you the 5-layer infrastructure Amazon built over 20 years, the system that made same-day delivery possible for them and mathematically impossible for every competitor who tried to copy it. Here is something worth pausing on. Every week, hundreds of millions of people interact with one of the largest logistics operations in human history, and most of them have never thought about it once. Over 1,200 fulfillment facilities across the globe. More than 350 dedicated fulfillment centers, each roughly the size of a city block. More than 100 cargo aircraft flying over 250 daily flights. Around 260,000 independent delivery drivers using personal vehicles. Nearly 6 billion packages delivered in the United States alone every year, and 750,000 robots working inside those warehouses around the clock. The machine is enormous, and it was designed to be invisible. The less you think about logistics, the better it is working. There is a question that changes how you see Amazon entirely. Why does a company that sells books and toothbrushes own a cargo airline? Why does it manufacture branded delivery vans? Why does it employ more delivery drivers than some countries have postal workers? The answer starts with what Prime actually is. And it is not a shopping bundle. Prime is a behavioral lock. Once a customer pays $139 per year for membership, every purchase on Amazon feels like it costs nothing extra in shipping. The mental math disappears. And when the mental math disappears, the default buying destination changes. You stop asking, should I buy this here, and start asking only, when does it arrive? Amazon did not build Prime to make shopping convenient. Amazon built Prime to make Amazon the automatic first answer to every buying decision you ever have for the rest of your life. That is a completely different kind of product. Go back to 2005. Jeff Bezos walked into a meeting with his senior finance team and proposed free 2-day shipping for a flat annual fee of $79 per year. His finance team ran the numbers. They came back and told him it was a catastrophic idea. At the volume Amazon was projecting, the company would lose money on almost every delivery. Bezos said the math was wrong. Not because the numbers were incorrect, but because the model assumed no behavioral change. He was betting that the promise of speed would change how often people ordered, and that higher order frequency would eventually make the economics work. His team thought he had lost his mind. He had not. He had simply modeled something they could not see yet. By 2015, just 10 years after launch, Prime was generating $4.5 billion in annual subscription revenue. By 2024, that figure had reached $44.9 billion. The team that said the math did not work was watching the math work, at a scale none of them had imagined. The final leg of every package, from a distribution hub to your front door, costs more than every other stage of the journey combined. 53% of the total shipping cost in that last stretch alone. Think about why. 1 truck, 1 driver, 20 stops. Each one requires a park, a walk, and a confirmation. No economies of scale. Urban deliveries average around $10 per package. Rural deliveries can reach $50 per package. By 2012, Amazon's order volume was so large that this was no longer just an expensive problem. It was a structural ceiling, a hard limit on how fast and how cheaply delivery could go. And no company in history had solved last-mile delivery at Amazon's scale. No one had even come close. But last mile was only half the problem. There was a second bottleneck almost nobody discussed, the middle mile. This is the movement of goods from large regional warehouses to local distribution hubs near customers. For years, Amazon depended on UPS, FedEx, and USPS to handle this leg, and for years that worked. But Amazon's order volume grew faster than any carrier network was designed to absorb. UPS and FedEx were built for predictable, stable freight corporate shipments on consistent weekly cycles. Amazon's demand was volatile and algorithmically driven. It spiked on Tuesday mornings and dropped on Thursday afternoons. Carriers could not adapt in real time. Goods arrived late at local hubs, and late goods meant broken delivery promises. Amazon faced a binary choice: tolerate the dependency forever or build its own network entirely. Most companies in that position would have negotiated. Amazon did something different. Here is where it gets interesting. Amazon did not just build warehouses, it built a prediction engine. Machine learning algorithms analyze hundreds of variables for every product in every zip code: historical purchase rates, browsing behavior, time of year, weather patterns, correlations between products. People who buy one item tend to buy a second item within 7 days. The system runs continuously, and the result is that inventory is pre-positioned to regional hubs days before the order arrives. When you click buy, in many cases the package is already close. Sometimes it is already in your city. That is not luck. That is the output of a system that has been learning buying behavior across hundreds of millions of transactions for over 2 decades. This is why same-day delivery became mathematically possible at Amazon's scale, when it remained mathematically impossible for every competitor trying to build the same thing in 5 years that Amazon built over 20. In 2013, Amazon made the prediction engine official. On Christmas Eve, December 24th, the U.S. Patent Office granted them the patent, officially titled Method and System for Anticipatory Package Shipping. What the patent describes is extraordinary. Amazon can ship goods toward a geographic zone, a city, a region, before receiving a completed purchase order. Shipping labels are left partially blank. The algorithm assigns a confidence score. If the system is 85% or 90% confident that a customer in a specific area will order a specific product within 48 hours, the package departs the warehouse before that customer has opened the app. Amazon has confirmed this system is in active use today. Think about what that means. The package is already in motion. You just have not placed the order yet. The algorithm can predict the order, but a prediction is useless without the physical infrastructure to execute it. Before I show you what Amazon built next, if you were running UPS or FedEx in 2013 and you saw this pattern, what would you have done? Keep that answer. The rest of this story will test it. The algorithm needs infrastructure to execute. Amazon built that infrastructure in 3 layers. Layer 1, large fulfillment centers. Together, these 3 layers collapse the final delivery distance. Before Amazon built this network, the average last-mile delivery radius exceeded 150 miles. After regionalization, it dropped below 50 miles. That single compression cut per package delivery costs by roughly 60%. Amazon also reorganized into 8 self-sufficient regional networks. Regional fulfillment rates climbed from 62 to 76%. The hub architecture is the mechanism. The algorithm is the brain. Together, they are the reason no competitor can match Amazon's speed at Amazon's cost. But the middle mile was still a problem. Goods from distant fulfillment centers needed to reach regional hubs fast, and external carriers were not reliable enough at the scale Amazon required. Amazon's solution was to build an airline. Amazon Air launched in 2016 and now operates over 100 cargo aircraft from 54 U.S. airports, running more than 250 daily flights. The network's primary hub is a $1.5 billion facility in Cincinnati, Ohio. Amazon Air moves goods between large fulfillment centers overnight, ensuring regional hubs are restocked every morning for that day's predicted orders. Amazon no longer waits for UPS or FedEx to move goods across state lines. It flies them itself. The airline is not a vanity project. It is the direct solution to the middle-mile bottleneck that external carriers could never solve at Amazon's pace. The algorithms pre-position goods. The hub network compresses distance. Amazon Air handles the middle mile. But who actually delivers the package to your door? Amazon Flex. Launched in 2015, Flex recruits independent contractors who use personal vehicles and a smartphone app to deliver directly from delivery stations to customers. Drivers earn between $18 and $25 per hour. Flex operates across 260 metropolitan areas in the United States. And the combined Flex driver workforce is larger than the entire U.S. Postal Service carrier corps. But the critical advantage is not size, it is elasticity. When Prime Day arrives, Flex scales up. When demand drops, it contracts. No fixed routes, no legacy infrastructure constraints. Pure surge capacity, something no traditional carrier with a unionized fixed-route workforce can replicate on short notice. In 2018, Amazon introduced the Delivery Service Partner Program. Amazon does not just recruit individual gig drivers, it creates entire delivery companies. A DSP owner receives Amazon-branded vans leased by Amazon, Amazon's routing software, a guaranteed supply of packages, and an existing customer base. The DSP owner provides the drivers and the management. Today, approximately 3,000 DSP companies operate roughly 150,000 Amazon-branded vans across the United States, each working exclusively for Amazon. Amazon gains institutional last-mile coverage and surge capacity without directly employing a single driver on those routes. This is not outsourcing in the traditional sense. Amazon did not hand delivery to an existing company. It engineered an entirely new type of delivery business from scratch, and then manufactured 3,000 of them. As Amazon built each layer of this network, the established carriers watched, and then they made a mistake. Between 2013 and 2015, FedEx CEO Fred Smith sat across from an interviewer and said, directly, that the idea of Amazon building its own competing delivery network was a fantasy, not a risk. Not a concern worth taking seriously. A fantasy. Both UPS and FedEx then raised their shipping rates on Amazon, apparently confident that Amazon had nowhere else to go. Amazon responded not by negotiating, but by accelerating its own build. By 2019, Amazon's dependence on FedEx had fallen to near zero. That same year, FedEx terminated its domestic ground delivery contract with Amazon, believing this move would damage Amazon's operations. It did not. Amazon's own network had already absorbed the entire volume FedEx was carrying. The decision to dismiss Amazon as a logistics competitor is now considered one of the most expensive strategic misjudgments in modern business history. Walmart saw the threat and responded. In 2016, it acquired Jet.com for $3.3 billion to accelerate its e-commerce capabilities. In 2017, it acquired Zipped for $550 million to build same-day delivery from stores. In 2020, it launched Walmart Plus, a direct prime competitor. Walmart had 4,700 U.S. stores and positioned them as a last-mile advantage. Every store could theoretically become a fulfillment hub, but the structural problem was the stores themselves. Walmart stores were built for browsing humans. Wide aisles, complex layouts, thousands of product categories mixed together. Pick-and-pack fulfillment from a retail environment is slow, error-prone, and expensive at scale. Infrastructure built for one purpose cannot be repurposed for a fundamentally different purpose without being rebuilt from the ground up. If you follow the Kodak and Blockbuster stories on this channel, you will recognize this pattern immediately. UPS, FedEx, and Walmart all watched Amazon build a massive logistics infrastructure and reached the same wrong conclusion. They assumed Amazon was internalizing a cost center, reducing its shipping bill by owning more of the supply chain. They did not see it as a new product category being constructed under cover of operational necessity. The revenue tells the real story. Amazon Logistics, the shipping services sold to third-party businesses, generated $9.6 billion in 2019. By 2023, that figure had grown to approximately $140 billion. Amazon was not building a support function. It was building the next UPS, and the existing carriers only understood this after the gap was already unclosable. 3 separate companies, 3 separate moments, the same mistake. The pattern is not the interesting part. The interesting part is what happens next. Because Amazon did not stop at solving logistics, it used logistics to make itself impossible to leave. Jeff Bezos sketched the Amazon flywheel on a napkin in the early 2000s. The logic was a self-reinforcing loop. Lower prices attract more customers. More customers attract more third-party sellers. More sellers expand selection. Better selection attracts more customers. More customers generate more volume. More volume lowers per-unit logistics costs. Lower costs enable lower prices. The loop strengthens with every rotation. Now add the logistics layer. Lower logistics costs enable faster delivery. Faster delivery attracts more Prime members. More Prime members increase order frequency. Higher frequency generates more volume. More volume justifies more infrastructure investment. More infrastructure enables faster delivery, and the loop continues. At every step, scale produces an advantage that only pre-existing scale can replicate. A competitor attempting to enter this flywheel at any point faces a system that has been compounding for over 20 years. There is no shortcut into a flywheel that was already spinning before you arrived. But here is the hidden mechanism that makes it structurally impossible to compete with, and almost nobody talks about it. Amazon Web Services, AWS, generates approximately 58% of Amazon's total operating income from just 15% of its revenue. Cloud computing profits fund the logistics operation. Amazon can price delivery at or below sustainable cost because AWS pays the margin. FedEx cannot do this. UPS cannot do this. They must generate their profit from delivery itself, which means they must charge what delivery actually costs. Amazon charges less not because logistics is profitable, because cloud software is. That is the real flywheel, and it has no equal anywhere in the industry. March 2020, the world locked down. Physical retail shuttered. E-commerce demand surged to levels that Amazon's own internal models had not projected until 2025. Amazon's daily order volume nearly doubled overnight. Amazon responded by hiring 175,000 new fulfillment and logistics workers in 60 days, the fastest large-scale hiring in American corporate history. Meanwhile, UPS and FedEx were at capacity. USPS was buckling under volume. Walmart, Target, and Best Buy were scrambling to build curbside pickup as a substitute for a logistics network they simply did not have. Amazon's pre-built infrastructure, the one analysts had called excessive capital spending for years, the one investors had questioned as overbuilt, turned out to be exactly sized for a once-in-a-generation demand shock. The waste was the preparation. By 2023, Amazon Prime had 220 million subscribers globally. In the United States, roughly 65% of all households are Prime members. When the majority of people in a neighborhood have already committed to one delivery standard, that standard becomes the baseline expectation for everyone, including the people who never signed up. Retailers who cannot match two-day delivery or same-day in major cities are no longer perceived as normal. They are perceived as slow. Amazon did not just build a delivery network. It redefined what acceptable delivery means for the entire global retail economy, and it redefined it so completely that there is now no acceptable alternative for hundreds of millions of people. That is not market share. That is infrastructure capture. And infrastructure capture, once established, almost never reverses. Here is the final irony. Amazon's logistics network was built over 20 years, starting near zero in 2000, as a purely offensive investment in delivery speed, with no external pressure forcing it. A competitor attempting to replicate this network from scratch today would need to spend between $100 billion and $150 billion over 5 to 8 years, and would still arrive with one critical deficit that money cannot fix: the data. Amazon's predictive algorithms are trained on hundreds of billions of purchase events gathered over 2 decades. That behavioral dataset cannot be purchased. It cannot be licensed. It cannot be reconstructed in a laboratory. You cannot go back in time and collect 20 years of behavioral signals you chose not to gather. The infrastructure is expensive to copy. The algorithm is impossible to copy. And the gap between Amazon and every competitor widens every single day. So what is Amazon actually selling? Not products, certainty. The certainty that the object you want will arrive at a specific time, without friction, without anxiety, without effort on your part. Every fulfillment center, every cargo aircraft, every flex driver, every DSP van, every predictive algorithm, all of it exists to manufacture and deliver one specific feeling. The feeling that your order is already handled. And once you have experienced genuine logistical certainty at Amazon's level, every alternative feels broken by comparison. That is not brand loyalty. It is infrastructure dependency, the same kind that makes people loyal to their electricity grid. You do not love your electricity provider. You depend on the infrastructure it controls. Amazon engineered that exact relationship for the global retail economy. Deliberately. Over 20 years. And now it is simply the expectation everyone else must meet. Here's the lesson that almost no business school teaches. The companies that will build category dominance in the next decade will not win because they have the best product. They will win because they control the infrastructure layer beneath the product, the delivery system, the payment rail, the data pipeline, the identity layer. Amazon built its logistics infrastructure under cover of being a retailer. Google built its advertising targeting infrastructure under cover of being a search engine. Meta built its social graph under cover of being a photo-sharing platform. In each case, the infrastructure became the moat. The product became the cover story. So wherever you see a company today that appears to be overbuilding its support infrastructure, ask the harder question. Are they building a support function? Or are they quietly building the next inescapable layer of the global economy? I want to ask you something directly. In the last 12 months, have you ever decided not to buy something from a local store? Not because it was more expensive on Amazon, but simply because Amazon was faster or easier? Think about that decision for a moment. Who made it? You, consciously and freely. Or Amazon's logistics engineers who designed that convenience into existence 10 years ago? The most powerful systems in the world are the ones that feel like personal choices. That is exactly what Amazon built, a system so frictionless and so reliable that choosing it does not feel like dependency, it feels like freedom. But here's the thing. Those two feelings are not always the same. Let me leave you with the 5 structural advantages that make Amazon's logistics position essentially unreplicable today. 1. Predictive prepositioning algorithms trained on over 20 years of behavioral data, the most valuable and least copyable asset in the entire system. 2. A 3-layer hub architecture that collapses last-mile delivery distance from 150 miles to under 50 miles. 3. Amazon Air, which eliminates carrier dependency in the middle mile entirely. 4. The DSP and Flex workforce, 3,000 independently operated delivery companies and 260,000 gig drivers, providing surge-capable last-mile capacity on demand. 5. Prime itself, a behavioral commitment device that guarantees order frequency and justifies every dollar of infrastructure cost. Remove any one of these 5 advantages and the entire system slows. They are not features, they are a compound system. And compound systems at this scale are the hardest things in the world to replicate from scratch. Before you go, I want to know what you think. Was Amazon Prime's logistics dominance the result of deliberate genius strategy from day one, Bezos knowing exactly where the infrastructure investment would lead from the moment he sketched the flywheel? Or was it a series of reactive necessity decisions that happened to compound into something no competitor could match? Drop A for genius strategy, or drop B for lucky compounding in the comments below. I read every single one. A. Genius strategy. Bezos saw exactly where the infrastructure investment would lead from day one. B. Lucky compounding. A series of reactive necessity decisions that happened to build an empire. If this is how you like to understand business, not the headlines but the hidden mechanisms underneath, then subscribe, because every week on Leo Reveal, we dig into one of these stories at exactly this level of depth. Next week, we are covering a company that was handed the exact blueprint to dominate its category and chose to ignore every warning sign it was given. You will not want to miss that one. I will see you there.